Hello and welcome to our series of videos on RVSA approvals. My name is Anne Campbell, Compliance Engineer with Caravan Industry Association of Australia. And the topic for this clip is going to be ADR Compliance. So as part of RVSA vehicle type approvals, low ATM trailers, that's up to 4,500 kilograms ATM, are required to demonstrate that they cover all of the Australian design rule aspects of the trailer. Or in more simple terms, it's basically asking the question, does the design of my trailer meet the requirements of each of the applicable ADRs? So key to this is understanding which ADRs are applicable to your trailer. There are a couple of ways you can find that out. The Department of Infrastructure, BSS, have an ADR applicability summary for trailers. That's accessible via our RVSA Ready website. And looks like this. The requirements of ADRs are usually aligned with trailer category codes. So TA, TB, TC and TD are the four categories that apply to trailers. Usually our caravans and camper trailers fall into the TB category. So you'll see TB category in the second column here, and all the X's down below mark the ADRs that are applicable. And there are one or two that are circumstantial, so it refers to another ADR for the details. So look at this table will give you all the relevant ADRs. In order to make that a little bit more visual though, our RVSA Ready website includes this graphic, which gives you an idea of where on the vehicle all of these ADRs apply and what the relevant ADR numbers are. The way the website works is if we have a look at the detail of, for example, ADR 61, if you click on the box, it'll take you through to a detail about that particular ADR. And in particular, it looks at the clauses in that ADR that contain specific requirements. It might be test requirements, markings, specifications. There's all sorts of different requirements that the ADRs may contain. So in this particular case, clauses 6, 7 and 8 contain information on these topics: secure vehicle identification, markings, vehicle plates and registration plates. So when we go to demonstrate compliance with ADR 61, those are the three items that we have to specifically address by holding evidence that demonstrates that we meet the requirements. So what we're going to delve into is what that evidence might look like. How do we demonstrate that we are compliant with the ADRs? There's a number of forms that evidence may take. One particularly simple option is a component type approval. This is particularly relevant if you have a component that has a specific ADR or a distinct test within an ADR. Test results obviously can apply to components themselves or sometimes to groupings of components. The key thing with the RVSA is that any testing results that you rely on must come from an approved test facility. Another interesting factor about test results is that they can be used in their own right as part of your vehicle type approval, or they may be used by the supplier of your components to obtain a component type approval separately. So they're kind of interlinked, the component type approvals and the test results, but you don't have to get a component approval. You can use those test results directly in a vehicle type approval. And we'll go into that a bit more in some of our other videos. Other evidence that you may be able to use is design drawings or specification documents. Those are particularly relevant for things that relate to, for example, the assembly of a component or the layout of a vehicle, dimensions, that kind of thing. And a final option may be to use alternate standards. So, for example, some of the UN regulations and the United Nations approvals, or alternative standards that are listed in an ADR as being equivalent. And again, those might be held in their own right and used as part of your vehicle type approval, or they may form the basis of a component type approval for a supplier. So let's look in a bit more detail at some examples. Here we have ADR 6 and ADR 47. They're both specific ADRs that relate to lamp and reflector components, direction indicator lamps and retro reflectors, front, side and rear reflectors. So these ADRs contain component characteristics. So it's all about the colour, brightness, angles of the light, all that sort of thing of the component in its own right. So these are ideal ADRs to provide a component type approval as your evidence. ADR 62 is another example where there are a couple of specific test requirements. So drawbar strength is a key one, and safety chain attachment point strengths. And the ADRs have some specific test requirements that either need to be tested or modelled. So these are ideal ADRs where test results might be a suitable evidence, bearing in mind, of course, that they need to come from an RVSA approved testing facility. ADR 13 is an example of an ADR that is related to the installation of lighting in this case. And so the types of things that are specified in this ADR are which lamps are present and what the positioning and layout of those lamps might be. So this is a good example where design drawings or lighting layouts might provide sufficient evidence to demonstrate your compliance. ADR 44 contains a number of specifications, door location being on the left-hand side or rear of the vehicle. So it's not about the door as a component itself, it's about the positioning of that door. The fire extinguisher, location, number and size of fire extinguishers in an RV. These are good examples where design drawings and vehicle specifications might provide the best evidence. So you can see from these examples that different kinds of evidence will be appropriate for different types of ADRs. So this is where your knowledge of which ADRs are applicable and what are the contents of those ADRs become really relevant. So I refer you again to the diagram on our RVSA Ready website to become familiar with that. When you come to completing your approval applications will ask you what is the evidence document that you hold to demonstrate all of this. So the recommendation is that you gather up all the pieces of evidence for the various ADRs and you collate them into some kind of evidence document. So you might print out all the drawings or the reports, or you might file them together somewhere. In this example, I've called it document 1234, and it becomes my reference that I put into my application. Noting that this evidence can be a live document, so subsequent versions of evidence, if you have design changes and so on, can also be stored in this document to keep it current. And that is a key part of your obligations, is that you have to have the original evidence and any subsequent design changes recorded in your ADR evidence. Another variation on that theme would be to have an evidence document that lists the location of all the various pieces of evidence. This might be applicable if you already have systems within your business that store these pieces of evidence, for example, your drawings or your test reports. And so you might list for a particular ADR, a particular piece of evidence and where it's located so that you can readily find it if and when you need to, but you don't have to specifically collate hard copies of those evidence pieces if you already have them stored, especially electronically. So that's a quick run through of ADR evidence, the types of evidence that you might hold in order to demonstrate compliance of your designs with the ADRs, and some suggestions of how you might collate that evidence for the purpose of approvals. If you have further questions or want some more information about this, first, please go to our website at rvsaready.com.au, and particularly the ADR evidence graphic and the links through from that to the details. If that doesn't resolve your questions, then please feel free to email the RVMAP technical team, rvsaready@caravanindustry.com.au, and one of our team will get back to you with some more detailed response. Thanks for listening, and don't forget to check out our other RVSA videos coming soon.